We're starting later. I mean, that's unfortunate, but it's just the reality. There's nothing we can do about that. We can't rewrite, we can't rewrite the last 8 years. So we're starting somewhat later. I'm Todd Stern. I'm the Special Envoy for Climate Change for the administration. I'm at the State Department, and basically I'm in charge of managing all of our international negotiations and international dealings with respect to climate change, and with a healthy dose of clean energy in there as well. But that's basically it. We're starting later. I mean, that's unfortunate, but it's just the reality. There's nothing we can do about that. We can't rewrite, we can't rewrite the last 8 years. So we're starting somewhat later. If you look at what we would be doing now, going forward between now and 2020, as compared to what the EU is doing or anybody else is talking about, very comparable. Very much in the same ballpark. Indeed, by various measures of comparability, we would be doing more. So it's a big change. I've said it's a seismic change, and I think that that's true. So this is what can be done right now. I mean, you've got, in Henry Waxman, you've got an enormously skilled legislator. You've got an activist on this issue. You're not going to do a lot better than that, right? So it's a good place to start. It's solid. It's quite comparable by most readings with what the Europeans are talking about, and it gets over the space of the time to 2050 right where they're talking about. And by the way, we're the only ones that I know of who are talking about not an aspirational goal of 2050, but actual hard policy, a year by year by year ratcheting down of the cap. So I mean, we're feeling very comfortable with what we're talking about. Right. So we're trying to get the general kind of aim you're talking about is usually talked about in terms of a 450 parts per million concentration of greenhouse gases in 2050, and the policies that we're talking about versus what the EU is talking about, if the U.S. Done by the U.S. only would have a difference of 1 or 2 parts per million. There's a very big difference between whether the major developing countries do a lot and don't. There you have not 1 or 2 parts per million, but a big difference. 80% of the growth in emissions going forward for the next several decades is going to come from the developing world. And so we are the first to admit, recognize, and talk about our own historic responsibility. The United States is the biggest historic emitter of greenhouse gases. We have a huge responsibility to take leadership, to take action, and to move forward. But having said that, if you look at the trajectory from now on, hugely weighted toward the developing countries. So I mean, the short answer to the question is that I do think that we can be quite consistent with those sort of scientific goals, provided everybody gets in the act. We're talking to members as well as and many others, obviously, in the administration are as well. So look, there's a lot of gain to be had in taking action here, both because the transformation to clean energy, to a clean energy economy, can be, I think, as the president talks about often, a creator of clean energy jobs and be a real driver for the U.S. economy going forward in the 21st century. In terms of the question about the kind of competitive issue that you raised, look, I think right now the legislation includes provisions that would essentially give free allowances to industries that are heavy emitters and heavy exporting sectors. So to in effect equalize what they're facing and not have them take on a higher carbon burden than their competitors in China or wherever. That's one way to do it. There's undoubtedly other ways to do it as well. But it's a fair question. We don't want to be at a competitive disadvantage. But the real most important way in the long run, whether it's in the immediate or not, but in the slightly longer run, the way to address these questions is to have an international agreement that has all the parties involved and all the parties taking real action.